What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you all had a great Friday as we're starting to get into the weekend and really starting to figure out what is going to go on towards the end of the weekend and early next week regarding the situation we've been talking about for the last 7 days now, regarding what's going to happen in the tropics early next week. So today, I've really became a lot more confident that something is going to develop. Now, what that is and how strong it's going to get, it's still a question mark, but that's expected. So we're going to talk about what all the models are showing today. We're going to go over 4 different models: the Euro, the GFS, the Icon, the Canadian model. Basically, all long range models that we can look at with confidence as guidance to figure out what's going to happen, or we trying to figure out what could happen. So I really think there's a good chance that we're going to have a named storm in the Gulf next week, and I, with a high confidence, think something is going to affect the Gulf states. What that is, a tropical storm, a very low-end hurricane, or either just a bunch of Gulf moisture. We're going to figure that out and talk about that. But if you guys have not subscribed to my channel, definitely hit the subscribe button. I try to post every day, and when it's really active, it really gets down going on in here regarding, we're entering hurricane season, so it's about to get a lot more active. So definitely hit the subscribe button because, like I said, I'm someone who uploads every day, and it's a good way to get up-to-date information about what is going on. Like the video if you like it. It's definitely appreciated. It helps get the video out there. So let's get going with this. Just hot off the press here at the 8 p.m. update, we have a bump up to a 30% chance in this area that was a 20% chance yesterday. It actually turned to a 20% chance overnight. So I mentioned last night that this area right here, which did not have any highlighted risk area, was probably going to upgrade to a 20% chance over the next 24 or 36 hours, and it did. So we're kind of starting to figure out what the National Hurricane Center is really starting to see. So we got a 30% chance of an area right here that has a chance to develop into a cyclone, basically a tropical depression over the next 5 days. This is going to increase, I think. I think we're going to get a bump up to 40, then a bump up to 50% chance. But this is where the life of our potential tropical system begins, down here in the southern Gulf of Mexico. So this is the area we watch. So let's get going. So with the European model, this is what we're going to look at first. As we're going through in time, if you don't know this setup, haven't watched one of my videos, this is the time frame right here is right here, SAT. You know that stands for Saturday. Most people do. So if you're trying to figure out what day we're on, and I'm forgetting to mention it, look up here, and that gives you a good idea of what day we're at. So we're at Sunday. Notice there's a blob of green down here. That is our tropical moisture trying to organize off the coast of Central America. As we're getting into Monday, it continues to kind of spin. If I move this kind of fast, you notice there's a spin. It's trying to figure out, it's basically trying to get some legs and start to get going north. It's just kind of spinning around here, and it's trying to figure out what it wants to do as far as steering currents, as far as what direction it wants to go. So it kind of just spins around here towards the beginning to the end of the weekend, all the way to early next week, and it finally doesn't really get going according to the latest European model until really Wednesday. Finally, the energy starts to move north, and notice the little bit of spin to it. We're getting into Thursday. Notice the low pressure popping off. At this point, I would say this is probably a tropical storm. Notice it has dual low pressures. So, basically one concrete low pressure will take over here. So I wouldn't focus on the 2 L's. I'd focus on this one. So you got a pressure of 997. That's definitely probably a tropical storm at this point, and it's moving north. Where does it go? And notice we're all the way into about a week out. So this is next Friday. It's taken 2 days to cruise across the Gulf of Mexico. I've seen storms cruise across the Gulf of Mexico in almost less than a day. So, it happens here. And here it comes. It's rolling into Louisiana as Tropical Storm Bill. This would be Tropical Storm Bill. That's the next name on the hurricane list. So it would be Bill. And next Saturday, so around this time next week, we'll be talking about, if the European was to come true, full-fledged tropical storm heading into Louisiana, heading into the Gulf of Mexico. Does this have a chance to develop into a low-end hurricane, maybe a Category 1 hurricane? It absolutely does. But there's a lot of things limiting huge intensification, and we'll talk about in this video. But check it out as this thing gets inland. It throws a ton of rain into the Gulf Coast. Areas will get a lot of rain. This is the biggest threat with this, I think, because I don't think it's going to develop into some major hurricane. Really don't. But this is going to be a big time flooding event potentially, because what's going to happen here is this has a chance to get inland right here and kind of slow down, because there's going to be a front pressing down on it and preventing it from just surging north. Now this is 200 hours out, so we don't know exactly the pattern in place, but if there is a front right here, it's not going to be able to move north and would actually kind of begin to push it east. So places like Georgia and the Carolinas could absolutely get moisture off this thing. And I want to note here that this thing does not have to be a tropical storm to affect the Gulf Coast. This is regardless going to be a big time surge of moisture that heads north and affects the Gulf Coast. So as we're getting going here in time, this is wind speeds, basically surface wind speeds. This is not wind gust, max wind gust or anything. So if you look at the graph right here, you know, the blues is like 10 to 15 miles per hour. Then you got the greens, which is getting over 10 miles per hour. Notice a circulation trying to pop off the coast over here or down here. And notice you start to get a lot of winds in the Gulf of Mexico. This is a big time looking tropical system, but I can tell you it's going to be lopsided. What I mean by lopsided, most people know what that means. It's going to be one-sided. So there's going to be, I think, a lot of dry air on the Texas side of the storm, meaning the western side of the storm. I think a lot of dry air shear is going to eat up this side of the circulation. So I think it's going to be lopsided, as in a lot of moisture is going to be on the east side of the circulation. It's going to press all this moisture into the Gulf states. So that means basically wherever the circulation is, whoever's east of the circulation is going to get the most action as far as rainfall and probably winds. But notice you don't see any crazy intense winds. This looks like a low-wind tropical storm. This could change, and it's bouncing back and forth. But tropical storm here, this is probably a low-wind tropical storm, 20 to 30, 40 mile per hour winds. So let's jump right here. I want to show you this. This is just the operational one. This isn't the ensemble one. So I'm just showing you the operational one. You know, obviously it shows all the rain in the Gulf of Mexico, but that's rain falling on water. So, I mean, not a big deal there, obviously. But you're getting going here in time. You're getting to around this time next week, so a week out. Look at all this rain starting to move into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and then it begins to move east. That is over a foot of rain produced by this tropical system, whatever it is. That is a lot of rain. Now, I want to show you the pattern in place based off the Euro. This will be a little more difficult to understand. Basically, right here, where you have the more defined red and pink, that is high pressure. Let me tell you, I know I don't talk much on the western U.S., but the western U.S. is going to be baking. I really hate it for the guys, praying for them guys out there, because places like Phoenix, it's going to push 120 degrees for high temperatures potentially early next week. You have, obviously, a lot of areas in exceptional droughts, big-time droughts. But so there's going to be a nasty big-time ridge. It's going to prevent any kind of moisture hardly from developing. And anyways, yeah, so hopefully the pattern can change out there. But that pattern is going to affect this tropical system. Our tropical system is going to be down here. Not going to see anything that defines it really well. But this is going to steer whatever's going on. Meanwhile, you got a trough digging into, and I'm going to make a video about this too again, but you got a trough digging into the eastern U.S. that's actually going to deliver nice, cozy weather, as in a low humidity. It's not going to really do a ton to the temperatures. But you're going to notice next week along the eastern U.S. all the way down to Georgia, including the Carolinas, Virginia, everybody. There's going to be a few days next week where the humidity is going to be much lower. We'll talk more about that when we know more, but notice basically whatever tropical energy right here is there, tropical storm or hurricane, it's going to try to figure out where it wants to go. A weaker storm is influenced more by the patterns. A stronger storm kind of holds its own a little bit more. It can charge a little bit more and a little bit deeper into high pressure. This will be a weak storm regardless, I really think. So it's going to be influenced big time by any pushing of high pressure over here, and a trough over here. So there's not going to be much steering currents with this. I want to show you this. I keep having to do this because Every time I try to already have it pull it up, it just does not work for me. But I want to show you chances of a tropical depression. So as we get into the 72 to 120 hour out period, notice the highlighted area down here. So this is getting into around midway next week. You have a good chance, a 70-75% chance of tropical development to a depression, and then it obviously surges more north. Chances increase more north, and chances are increasing just in general. They're over 50% chance now of a tropical depression, which, if you don't know, there's a tropical wave, depression, storm, then hurricane, then category 1 through 5. So chances are increasing, even based off the EPS ensembles, of a tropical depression forming. You notice the ensemble mean on low pressures, and notice all the L's popping up. Some of these are strong. Once you start seeing a low pressure of millibars dropping to below 1,000, that means you're starting to get into a tropical storm. You start seeing 990s, 981s. That's definitely hurricane strength. And look, they got a bunch of L's popping up. That's a bunch of potential storms. Well, not all those are storms. This is basically trying to find the mean on where the location of the storm would be. But I know you're wondering, I haven't really showed the GFS or anything yet. I'm about to show it to you now. Give me 1 second. Let this load here. It took me way too long to get to it, so it's having to reload for me. But as you're going through here in time, notice down here, this is where our storm's going to be. We're starting off Tuesday of next week. Watch the L pop off down there. And you notice the L shows up here. The storm system wants to initiate well east of the Euro. The GFS is basically well east of everybody. And it develops into basically a depression, maybe a low-end tropical storm. But then it kind of shifts west a little bit. And it's just everywhere. But like I said, the GFS does a good job of showing where all the moisture is going to be with this storm. On the east side, this is the center of whatever circulation there is. All the moisture is on the east side. So I know I speak a lot as in I'm talking about my state in South Carolina, but I know I got a lot of viewers who listen to my channel from South Carolina. All the moisture being on the east side could mean very wet conditions for us next weekend. So we'll kind of watch that. But then it kind of merges with the trough and gets going. You look at the Canadian model. Canadian model looks kind of like the European model. We're getting into Wednesday of next week. We're getting into Thursday. And here's the low pressure that pops off and starts surging north. And it strengthens all the way into probably a low-end tropical storm, maybe just a depression. But it definitely looks like a storm. It surges into the Gulf. Flooding is going to be the biggest threat with this. I'm telling you guys. This is the Icon. Does a good job showing the spin. And it moves, it pops off an L, and that's as far out as it goes. But Icon does an excellent job. I'll tell you what, if the center of this thing moves into, let's say, New Orleans, I won't be surprised if hardly anyone west of the circulation gets hardly any rain. Everybody east of the circulation is going to get all the rain. You're going to get a lot of shear and dry air wrapped into the storm on the west side for sure. Look at sitting here, look at sea surface temperatures. This is in Celsius. You got 28, 29 degrees Celsius. That's pretty much the low 80s in Fahrenheit. So the Gulf of Mexico is definitely heating up, that's for sure. This is shear. I haven't showed y'all much with this, but I feel like we're getting in a closer time frame to really talk about this. Anywhere you see the bright colors of the reds and the browns not really a bright color, but the yellows, that is where shear is. This is where our circulation is. This is the European. Notice all the shear on top of this storm. Tropical systems do not like shear, but you notice there's a bunch of shear getting on the north, the west side of this storm. So it definitely is going to have to fight off some unfavorable conditions. If this wasn't all in this picture, maybe this thing could really get into a full-fledged Category 1 hurricane. But I want to show you this too, and hopefully it'll pull up, and then I'll quit talking so much because this video is going on and on. But the Climate Center, and you know what? This is just going to take 3 days to pull up here. Y'all bear with me if anybody has made it to the end of this video. But basically what I'm about to show you here is the Climate Center has actually highlighted a high risk now of tropical development. And this graphic is probably going to be a little difficult to see, but it's basically for week 2, June 16th through June 22nd. Notice the area right here in red and almost a big chunk of the Gulf of Mexico. that is basically symbolizing high risk of tropical cyclone formation, which is depression basically. So everybody's starting to bite on this, even the experts. We need to keep an eye on this because things like this can sneak up. It doesn't take much to suddenly get a very low-end hurricane and for us to be our first hurricane this season. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in, and y'all have a great start of your weekend.